I know, the last I got was, well, I'll verify that, have Laura verify my bill, what she got, and I didn't hear anything.
Usually then it's just submitted, so,
Okay,
if there's no question, they submit it.
okay,
You just wanna try to remind myself to have that conversation and make sure you're actually getting the funds back.
yeah,
That's a big deal, 26%, still money.
way more than I was getting, Chairman.
Correct. Yeah, we'll do that, so.
Yeah, I couldn't get any there.
Good cost. I'm gonna have to balance my budget, so I'm gonna need like $8.
All right, are you accepting?
Did you anticipate duration, a length of duration on this meeting? You, okay, yeah, okay,
No, I know I can get long-winded sometimes, but I don't mind
okay.
talking more.
If you spend the holiday here, do you?
Almost, this is,
That's right.
no,
I didn't have difficulty with that this morning, but I had weird things showing up this morning for my board meeting on Blue Jeans. I think what's gonna happen here, they said that soon they will be not supporting Blue Jeans, so we need to get the Teams or some other virtual option.
I think that too.
So it's apparently 12/31, they will not, Verizon or whoever supports Blue Jeans will no longer be. So,
Okay, well, it's 3:01, so I will call the meeting to order. I think here you have everybody, can everybody hear us okay that has joined? All right, so this was a short notice and I wasn't sure how many people would be coming today. And the reason for the special meeting is just because, while I was out last week, there was a Justice Youth and Extension Committee meeting, and there were some letters, that were sent about continued concerns about the treatment court. And, who was gonna be involved and, who wasn't for now and what was going to happen. So I wanted to call this meeting together at the request in those letters to, start a conversation on what we can do to move forward. There has been a lot going on, a lot of negativity, and I think, the focus is to get back to what the mission is, and that's, the treatment court and the people who are served on that, rather than politics or anything else. And so all of the letters, which are available on the county website, by the way, under the Justice, Youth, and Extension, a letter from the sheriff, from the district attorney, from the administrative coordinator, and all of those letters expressed support for our treatment court and moving forward. But we all admit that since the evaluation last year, we've talked about issues that have, arisen, and they're continuing, to arise. And I think, the purpose of this meeting is in thinking about things and what kind of committees and things are involved in this, it occurred to me just even last night, that we had a special meeting of the county board on October 2nd, in which the, chief judge of the 10th Judicial District and the district court administrator, Ross, is Ross on?
I'm on, Judge. I'm not sure if you can hear me.
I can, thank you. So they attended and they had a plan, that they presented to the county board on how to move forward. And it occurred to me last night that I don't know if that was actually presented in open session or closed session or where. And, you know, then to complicate things more, we have a treatment court team, and then do we have an advisory team or an oversight team? And so calling meetings and trying to get people together and not knowing which way to go or which way to call them is difficult, but this is a critical time right now because our grant submission is due in just days for the treatment court. So on October 2nd, there was a vote by the full county board, unanimous, I believe, if I recall right, that approval to apply for the 2024 treatment court grant and to move forward with hiring a coordinator, because the one priority that we had is we've been trying to deal with the treatment court since April without a coordinator, and all people who work full-time jobs and are busier and are doing this, and it's taking its toll. Well, things have come to a head, and even, you know, some more issues have arisen because of the stress with everybody. And that prompted, I'm sure, the letters from the stakeholders. And I should add too, that I did get a letter from probation afterwards too. That is not on the county website. Melissa is on, I see, so she can speak to that. She sent that to me directly, and I did send it to other people, but again, I forget where things go. Because even shortly before this meeting, I just received an email from the district attorney, who I thought was gonna be here, saying that she wasn't, and I wanted to come up with a quick response, and it looks like that letter was sent out to the full county board, but not a lot of the CJCC members, I think. So anyway, I haven't had time to really look at it in depth, but, and I did have a response. So that is one of the handouts that I've given you, as well as an updated handout from the October 2nd full county board meeting. And the updates are what has transpired since that October 2nd. So on October 2nd, the plan was to move ahead and do this, and that was what we were gonna do. And then this other thing came up. So I really just called this meeting and wanted all the stakeholders to be here, but I chose the CJCC because that was something specifically mentioned as the place to start. The CJCC is the committee that understands the criminal justice system programs that we do, and again, it was in the letters from Ms. Anderson, you know, that was the place to start. So I thought that was a good foundational place, and so here we are, and again, I've provided you with a plan from October 2nd, but I was kind of hoping that we could have a discussion and say, what do we need to do to move forward? I did add some things to this plan that was presented to the full county board, a few things, and mostly just the update that since that county board meeting, and these other issues that have come up, I have been in contact with All Rise, which is the National Association of Treatment Court Professionals, who has always offered to help to, you know, work with us on anything that we needed to work on. So when we were having the issues before and we went to the county board, All Rise is a big organization. It's a national organization that we have been working with on what can we do to bring things back to where they should be. And they offered to do a series of training and a lot of things actually. So what they didn't want to do was to do the training until after we had a coordinator hired. Because of you know, everybody being under stress and a heated argument that happened within our team, the request to approve the new job description for the coordinator was tabled at the last county board meeting. So we haven't even posted for that yet, which is really discouraging. But it is what it is right now. And so again, we need to move forward. We need to, you know, I'm not saying that there aren't things that need to be discussed about what happened. I'm not saying that these are all the people who need to discuss it. This is the starting point. But in order, you know, to keep this program that's worthwhile, we have to start somewhere. So I just wanna comment on a couple of things that I heard from the Justice, Youth, and Extension Committee. And I did not watch the video that's online or anything, so I'm not quite sure about the exact language, but one of the things that came up was looking at replacing the recovery court, the drug court, with a deferred prosecution. Am I right on that, Jonathan?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. And I wasn't sure if it was a deferred prosecution or a diversion or.
Diversion program.
Okay. So I just want to explain to people what that means and what it means with the grant is that, and Judge Stewart, jump in anytime that you want to, but each of those different programs serve a different population. So we have deferred prosecutions, which means the district attorney decides not to even prosecute them. They're low-level offenses that we're just not even gonna bring them in, or it even happens at law enforcement level. Then is the diversion level, where you're diverting people from jail, from probation, whatever the goal may be for that. And then you have the recovery court, or the drug court, that's up here. These are the high-risk, high-need individuals. Diversion are the people that you're diverting them away from the system because you don't want to mix everybody, or by doing that, the fear is that it's going to make low-level offenders higher-level offenders. And so even in the grant world, when you're applying for the grant, you have to be very specific on which kind of program that you are applying for. And we have started with the high risk, high need, the tough ones, the ones who, you know, need more than probation. They need more than CCS. CCS is a program that offers rehabilitation services, treatment, things like that. They need constant monitoring, they need regular testing. It's all a very structured program that involves an interdisciplinary team. And we can't do it without the team. It will not work. And so that's what we need to get back to the table on. We have submitted a pre-application grant for the grant, and so we cannot change the course of what we've already started applying for. I did contact the grantors back in June. As part of the evaluators, the program evaluation recommendations, the team attended a multi-track training because sometimes our treatment court is not full. So how can we best use our resources? Maybe we could do a multi-track and have low-risk offenders. You have to keep them all separate. We can't use our TAD money for that, and I don't want to complicate things with this discussion, but even at that point in June, one of the things that came out of that training by All Rise, the National Center, was that we really needed some team training because we have a very new treatment team, and roles and responsibilities are different on that team than they are within their agency. And so the training is critical for that. So we identified that quite some time ago with the evaluation and with the national people that needed to be a focus. So it is. And again, that was a plan. We just, now they're willing to bump that up. But we have to have the commitment, you'll see by this plan, that they're willing to do it if we can, you know, get in a 5-hour session with them by December 7th. So, team building, team training, team communication, all of it are things that would go a long way, but we have to have the commitment and we have to have the team. So, Judge Stewart.
I have about 1,000 thoughts. Those of you that have been in meetings with me before, well, I can probably give you 1,000 thoughts, but I'll try and keep it to about a half a dozen today. A couple couple of points I wanna make before I get to the meat of this. First of all, I do believe that this is the forum that this discussion needs to take place in. Not in committee meetings, I'm sorry, if they wanna know what's going on, fine, they can ask. But here is the group that is designed to address these kinds of issues. So, in response to your comment, is this the right place to start? Absolutely, that's what it was created for, to look at alternatives to the traditional criminal justice system of jail them as long as you can, okay? So that's first thing. Second thing I wanna say is, the priority of hiring a coordinator is right up there at the top. This thing is going absolutely nowhere without a coordinator. It's just gonna die, okay? And in my opinion, TAD's not gonna fund a program that doesn't have a coordinator. Why? Why would you do that? You know that treatment courts don't function without a coordinator, so why would you give Russ County money? Okay, so that is just an absolute priority. Third point, with regard to these other programs that are being talked about, that's great. That's absolutely great. Those programs should exist here, but they should come out of this room right here with this group, saying, okay, we deal with this part of the criminal justice population by doing these things. We deal with this group in the criminal justice system with these kinds of diversionary or no pros, or some call them pre-charging conferences where we decide we're not gonna charge people and they're diverted off in some fashion. We've got deferred acceptance programs where someone will enter a plea, it's not received, and then they have to do and accomplish certain things in order to keep from being convicted. So there's a myriad of options there for alternative justice strategies outside of treatment courts. But in my opinion, especially in Russ County, there is no getting around that a functioning treatment court is at the pinnacle of all the alternative justice strategies. Just look at the caseloads here. I mean, who are we dealing with? We're dealing with people who need treatment. Alcohol, drug, and or mental health. That's about 60-some% of the people who have criminal complaints filed in the clerk of court's office. So that, in my opinion, is one of the hardest things to do, but it's gotta be primary in my opinion, okay? One last thought. And I haven't had a chance to totally digest this plan. I did agree with the first priority of hiring a coordinator. But let me just say this. I'm getting very frustrated, as are you folks probably as well. But there's so much crap, and I'll call it crap, that's going on in secret, behind closed doors, in closed sessions, all over the place, that are being destructive, not just to this organization, the CJCC, but to the treatment court, and to maybe some other things that should be going on that are not. To me, this is about politics and personalities. That's what this is about. I keep hearing little snippets here and there, and now I learned a few more things today, and I'm going, why didn't I know that? Why didn't I know that? I'm a member of this board. I've been here about as long as anybody else I would cast on this council. And so my opinion as to what the first step has to be, especially in light of these stakeholders who have opted out, at least temporarily, I guess, or whatever. Bottom line is they're not there on Wednesday morning and with the treatment team. We need a neutral third party. I don't know who that is, but you need a neutral third party to sit down with that treatment team, fully constituted with all the stakeholders sitting in that room, and decide, what do we have to do to fix the problems? You keep talking about there's problems, problems, problems. I have yet to hear a plan of well, we're gonna take the evaluation we got last year, and let's take it step by step, and say, how do we alter or modify the treatment court to address that area that's been pointed out as a result of I'll call it an objective evaluation, more objective than a lot of people's opinions I've heard, okay? And sit down with that group and say, look, enough of this crap. Let's figure out solutions, not bitching or pointing fingers or whatever. We really need to get down and get that group so it's on the same page, trying to accomplish steps that are necessary to get to that point where you have a functioning treatment team with the buy-in from all the stakeholders. Now, like I said, I don't know who that neutral third party would be, and I'm not volunteering. But one possibility, you could get a mediator, because I think in part it's a mediation issue for this group. I think that's part of it maybe, but Bill, is it Emchin? The gentleman who did the,
Consensus.
Because I spoke with him at length the other morning before we started the training, and he said, first of all, I don't know if you knew, he has ties to this county, he's gonna retire in this county and live in this county.
You did tell us that.
Yeah, okay, well, anyway, he said, I will come back anytime and work with you folks on trying to build a consensus. Anytime, just call me. So, I mean, there's an option, because I really felt it was an honest, sincere offer, because I think I know he sensed some of the stuff going on here, in the dysfunction, and said, maybe I can help. So, there's one option, but I think everybody's gotta sit down and figure out not who to blame or who to point fingers at. I've been probably as critical of treatment court as anyone. Okay, based on my training, my experience, and what I've gone through in a number of counties working with treatment courts. So I think they should be done a certain way, and I understand my biases. But by the same token, this group has to figure out how are we gonna fix it, not who are we gonna blame, and say, we're taking our football and going home. Enough of that, enough of that. Otherwise, you're gonna destroy one of the most potentially productive, efficient, effective tools that this county could implement. And you're gonna lose the money. You know, you wanna do some of these other programs, I get that, and I say they should exist. But guess where that money's coming from? It's gonna take resources, and it ain't coming from Madison. They don't have grants for that kind of stuff. Every county that's got those diversion programs and those kinds of things, where do they get it? Out of the county coffers. And I have heard this board before. And if you wanna spend over a nickel, it's a problem, okay? That's my opinion, and I'm entitled to it. So, that's fine, but that's an example of how this group could figure out, how can we do these other things as well as the treatment court? Where are we gonna get the resources to do some of these things? Cause you can't do diversions without money, it ain't gonna happen. I know, because I deigned to, mention where I came from before I moved to Russ County, I won't even say it. But, we've done all those things there, and a lot more, but it all came out of that CJCC. That was the impetus for every program. And as a group, we would go to the county board and sell them on these other alternatives in the criminal justice system. So I think that's only 6 things, so I'm gonna stop right there.
Well, thank you, Judge Stewart. You have the background and the insight, and I think, contacting the consensus maker training, is a good idea. I attended the first session, but we had a trial on Monday and I couldn't come to the second one, so I was disappointed that I couldn't continue with that. And maybe that is a place to start. I think, when we sat down and came up with this plan through the court system, the idea was that All Rise, the national organization, could do that, but that is a different way of looking at it than consensus building for sure, so, and certainly I think both would help.
I just wanna add a couple things to what you said real quick about a mediator, and I'm just gonna throw out two names. And he also came up during our transition from Judge Anderson to Judge Barna with your colleague from that county I won't mention, but Mr. Judge Schmelzer, George Wilson. He might be an alternative. The other mediator I've worked with is Attorney Dave Data out of Phillips. And he really works at, you know, I'm talking civil cases, but I've never seen a mediator work so hard to get the matter resolved, where I know a number of them wouldn't. So there's a couple other potential, other sources if this one didn't do it. And Judge Moser was on our, served on our drug court a couple times as a fill-in, and he did a wonderful job. He has the same experience as you, Judge. I don't know if he'd be willing to take on like that, but that would be, I think.
I told him to, he would. Trust me. No, but.
I mean, those, besides your other one, I'm just throwing some other names on it.
Let me say this, cause I wanna emphasize this. Going to All Rise, I mean, these are great organizations with fantastic technical assistance that's available to treatment courts and so on. I get that. And I think that is important, but I really think that has to be down the road, Judge Barna, in that, you know, if you could get everybody in the room that should be there on the treatment team and all the stakeholders, and you had people from All Rise come here, and they said, okay, this is the way you should do it. Okay, now you all know, bye. It's not gonna resolve what I believe are some of the underlying issues of the politics and the personalities. So that's what I'm saying. I think before you can go down that road and have it be really beneficial. And the other thing, in terms of training, everyone on the CJCC should all have basic training in treatment courts, period, end of statement. Obviously, that's necessary for your treatment team, and it's gotta be a lot more in depth, but it's really gotta be in this room. Everybody should know all the principles that guide treatment courses. I have to look them up, I've known them for a long time, and I follow them, but everybody in this room should know that. So when we're talking about treatment alternatives, et cetera. So training is important for this group just as much as it is for that group, and now I'll remain silent. Sorry for interrupting.
No, do not apologize. I think, you know, and that's the purpose of this, is to talk about things, and that's a great point, because like I said, you know, we do have these resources in the treatment organizations, but you know, this is a very good point. I think it would be a good starting point. Training is always great, and that's offered, you know, different times, but you know, even to try to get county officials to understand the difference in the program, and that it's not just simply to take what we have and switch it to something else, or to take what we have and put it under the umbrella of something else. And I think, you know, it gets really complicated, and it's time consuming to try to explain to people, and I see it even in giving presentations to the county board. You're losing everybody after 5 minutes, but I mean, you could talk for hours, the trainings that we've done. So understanding all of that, and then when I hear comments that are, so we can do this with our program, and I don't wanna throw Jeremy under the bus, and we talked about this, and we are in agreement, I believe, that, because we utilize the CCS program in our treatment court, and it's wonderful because it opens up resources in this area that we have never been able to have. We had one treatment provider organization for years throughout, until last year. Now we have two, but, so we use the CCS program that allows, participants to, essentially say what they need for treatment, but we integrate that into the treatment court, but we can't just take CCS and say, this is enough for our recovery court up here with the high risk, high need, because you have to have probation, you know, you have to have more of the structure, the court. And you don't have that with the diversion and the deferred prosecution agreement, so it's all very complex with that, and so there are misunderstandings about which way we should go, and, you know, who should control it, all of that, and I agree that a lot of this that's been coming out of this for the last year is personality and politics, and that's not what we're here for the treatment court, by any means, but again, you know, now is the time, we have to move forward, and without having a coordinator, I'll just say that this is the one crutch that we need, because, you know, the point that I got to recently, where we have treatment team members who are arguing openly, and there is animosity, got to that point because of the stress of everyone trying to do the job of a full-time, very difficult position. And we're on, I think, 8 months without a coordinator, and so we can't have a team without the coordinator. We can't, that's the person who coordinates things, case manages things, so first and foremost, to get that person in there. But every step of the way, there, you know, it's put off, and that at least has to be put forward, and, you know, for county officials making that decision, what the resolution says for that treatment court is that we don't have a coordinator unless we have grant funding. So there is no danger in hiring an employee, because if the funding goes away, we can't have a coordinator. So why, we just need to go ahead. We have the approval from the full county board. Now there's an idea of, you know, maybe a suggestion for something else, and I can talk about that with the full county board again, but even that's going to need somebody to run it, and we can't use the current grant that we have for it. Next year, we could ask for money under a different kind of program, we could add that, but we can't now, and so we could have all 3 of those programs, and I agree that we should have them. So there is a misconception about what each kind of court program needs, and again, you know, I'm floundering at where else to go. This is a step in that first direction that we at least need to talk about it. I'm very encouraged, I'm very grateful that Jeremy's here. We, you know, had a conversation, I don't remember even what day it is today, yesterday, yes. And, you know, and an intense conversation, I'll say at some points, because this is what happens in these programs in politics and whatever, but good comes out of it.
I got a couple things, I just made a couple notes, cause I'm just
Please
like
do.
Judge Stewart, is that I'll talk and I'll make it as brief as I can. Couple things, representing Health and Human Services, I arrived at the Justice Youth Extension meeting last week, and a part of that discussion was, I was alerted to the fact that there were key stakeholders withdrawing from treatment court, okay? And as I heard that, I wasn't comfortable putting something on paper that you can or cannot get out of, or whatever that portrays. And so I showed up and I spoke my mind. When I discussed the Comprehensive Community Services Program, it was along the lines of what could we do, or what portions could happen. I think I portrayed it as CCS can do all that, and that was our conversation yesterday. Because that's not the case, okay? And so I take full responsibility for that. The comment that you made, Judge, about CCS affords Russ County access to providers that we've never had before. That's a true statement. Been here for 27 years, it's a true statement. We got access to a lot of things. As a result, I apologize to Judge, I apologize to Mr. Gauger, and at the same time, if there is a conversation about alternatives, this is great, okay? But if the conversation comes up with alternatives, I'm an alternative kind of person thinker, is that, the heck are we gonna do? What could we do, okay? So it wasn't like I was saying, hey, it has to be this, that, or the other thing. That being said, a couple of things that Mr. Stewart, Judge Stewart said. The county board has determined that the Justice Youth Extension is the oversight committee, okay? Whether we like it or not, that's also a place to start. If we really think that the CJCC, who is a key stakeholder, multidisciplinary team, then we need to start petitioning, or whatever words we'd use, to say that that is the oversight department, okay? But again, that's procedural, that's process, okay? The third thing is, as the people have, the key stakeholders have decided to pull away from this, when I showed up yesterday morning at 7 o'clock, it was desolate in there. I was a part of this team way back in the day. We had all of the department heads, Judge, you've said this, we had department heads sitting at that table when I was participating. I wasn't a department head at the time, I was the behavioral health coordinator. But we had the judge there, we had the DA there, we had, the sheriff was there, we had the Ladysmith Police Department chief, we had department heads at that team. So when I voiced my opinion at youth, Justice Youth Extension, I was, I'm probably a little condescending about the fact that I don't know how the hell we got here. I don't know how we got to this point, but it's a wreck. And so we have to come up with alternatives. The last thing I'll say is that, I made a suggestion respectfully to Judge yesterday morning that addressing the Justice Youth Extension herself, without an incident, without an allegation, without a, some underlying undertone, in my mind, as a mediator, is to try to get that message, because that's the oversight right now. And it's almost like, sadly throwing yourself at the mercy of the court. Sorry for the pun, but it's, you need to be in front of that committee, and you need to say, this is why I believe treatment court in Russ County is important. And you're right, 5 minutes, Mark is on my board, after 5 minutes he's had enough of me, but that's what it is. We have to start there. So I don't know if you've done that, I hope that there's something. I think I saw a Justice Youth Extension with some closed sessions, and so if that's you, congratulations, please knock it out of the park and let them have it, okay? But they need to be informed, because there are decisions that come out of that committee. That being said, I like the idea of Bill, not you, Bill, but the other Bill that did the consensus training and holding on to the all rise. My squad will return to the committee, but we can't have the drama. We can't have I hate the email threads. I hate the nitpicking back and forth and all that kind of stuff. So, that being said, thank you for letting me come here today.
Thank you. Go ahead.
One other comment, that has to do with consensus, because in my opinion, that treatment team has to operate on a consensual basis. And, I mean, I've sat through hundreds of treatment team meetings. And when we walked in there on Wednesday morning, we had at least a dozen people at all times, because we had actual service providers, we had a mental health provider, we had an alcohol and drug provider who were providing services to our clients and there. And the one rule that we just came upon, basically day one, was we aren't walking out of this room until we have a consensus. I'm not gonna go out there as a judge and say, I wanna do this, I don't give a rat's whatever about what the rest of you want, I'm the judge. No, that's a total failure road that you're going down there. So it has to be consensus, so when everybody walks out of that back room and comes out there, it's gotta be one voice. And even if you're not 100% convinced that that's the right path to take with the individual participant, everybody's gotta support that. And if you don't, then you got people going, well, I didn't agree with that, I didn't think that was a good idea. No, you can't have that, so there's gotta be a consensus, and that is a place that's really gotta start. So, that's my 3 cents worth.
Thank you. Speaking of consensus, so I don't wanna put anybody on the spot, but Melissa, you're on. Melissa's been very active since our evaluation. She's had, a probation and parole member on our team who has been extremely helpful. In fact, that's one of the letters, appreciating the help that her agent has done in the vacancy of the coordinator, but Melissa has also been joining us for our weekly meetings, driving from Chippewa. And so she has concerns too, and rightly so. So, but I did receive a letter from her that was similar, that was supportive of the program, but, you know, acknowledging that we need to do something. So I don't, Melissa, is there anything that you wanna add?
No, and I still 100% support the drug court in our mission and our values and our goals, and I don't think some of the problems come down to necessarily making consensus decisions, because I think when it comes to like the participants in and of themselves and what's best for them, I think we come together collaboratively and make those type of decisions. I think it's all the other personnel issues that are distracting us from staying consistent with the goals and mission of the drug court. So I think if we can get all the personnel issues in line, and we can get everybody back at the table, so we do have that collaborative team approach, and we can function appropriately according to the structure as laid out by our grant, and also start complying with some of the recommendations made by that evaluation, I think we could have a functioning drug court again. So I think it's a lot of the behind the scenes personnel issues that I think are having a negative impact on the treatment court in and of itself. And I think the impact is trickling down to the participants, and I think that's the biggest concern is how is it impacting, how are our behaviors or bad behaviors behind the scenes impacting the recovery of our participants. And that's, again, that's the most important thing, and that's what we're here to serve the participants in the county. So I think revisiting what our values and mission is extremely important, and getting back to that. And I agree, we do need more additional treatment. I support getting a coordinator hired. I think one of the letters I sent previous to this last letter was just indicating that, you know, the department can't participate any longer in covering the coordinator type positions. It's not part of our memo of understanding. We do need a treatment coordinator to be functioning appropriately. They're the primary person of the court, so I think that's extremely important, and I think we need to get approval to move forward with hiring that position, and if not, I don't even know how we have a treatment court without that position.
I think that is the max squeaking that you are able to, like, endure. I think that is the exact amount that you can deal with without having difficulty.
Yeah.
Good message, Melissa. Good
Yes,
message.
thank you, thank you. Anyone else? So Ryan or Kirby Harless is the new, attorney manager for what will it be, the Chippewa, Barron and Ross Public Defender's Office?
Yes, and unlike Judge Stewart, I think I've been here less long than everyone else, but I think I heard a lot of what he said, and I would echo it, that I think getting a treatment coordinator is important, and then I think when it comes to that consensus building, we have to figure out some kind of a way to, with a mediator or any other means, we actually have to get the people who aren't in the room in some way, shape, or form in order to make any of that functional. So that to me seems like a important next step. Yeah. So I guess reaching out to those stakeholders, perhaps with a few of the different options that we've mentioned for who potentially could be some sort of mediator, and then maybe giving them some agency to take a lead in that, and helping to pick between the people who we are throwing out there might be a olive branch to get them to re-engage in some way, shape, or form. But I think the ultimate goal, it seems like everyone here is on board with, which is we want to have a recovery court, we want to do things to keep it in play, and we just need to make sure to get everyone back on the same team.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'll just, Judge, I'll quickly add, this is Brian Raymond. And obviously the Public Defender's Office supports this wholeheartedly. I think Emily dropped off, but 4 public defenders have showed up today. So, we're in this for the long haul. We want to make it work, and Kirby, is there in person and taking the lead. So I agree with what Kirby said, but here's what I'd say. I think moving forward, I guess from today, it sounds like a coordinator can be hired because the county board approved it. So I just think that the group that is here, that did show up and is at the table, if we can have some sort of action plan, like how do we move that forward, how do we make that happen? Kind of who does what now to get that, whether the position description needs to be approved and we get it out there so we can hire someone. Two would be make sure that grant application gets done, who is actually doing that and responsible for that so we don't miss out on that. And then three, as Kirby said, literally getting people back to the table who aren't here today, right? Ellen and law enforcement, I didn't see anybody from law enforcement. The other players, we need to run a drug court. So whether it's sitting down with the mediator, whether it's sitting down with just the department heads of the people that need to be part of the drug court, you know, if we can set something up where literally we all sit down at the table, and I agree, this is the forum, because that's what this committee is about. So, but, you know, who's gonna reach out and invite those people back to sit down and have a conversation when they didn't show up today? So those are kind of the three action plans I think we can, so maybe it's already in place, Judge, but if, you know, if we can just kind of, what I'd like to see is be sure that those three things are part of this group's plan, the people that showed up moving forward.
Yes, thank you for that, Ryan. I think, so the grant, submitting the grant, we're proceeding with the grant. We have the approval from the full county board to proceed with that. One of the things that I do need, I guess I don't know if I need it today, is that one of the requirements under the grant is we need the letter of support from the CJCC, and I think that maybe a few months ago we did it. Judge Stewart, do you remember? That it was approved, that we did it. I think this body certainly approved that we go forward with the.
So every year,
grant.
we've done a letter, and I can go back and check my file, but
I have it.
Okay, so I have one from every year that we did, so if you don't, let's not reinvent the wheel.
Yep.
So, but yeah, I thought this body did that. I think you'd have to look at the notes.
A couple months ago, but
I'm pretty
I
certain
mean,
it was
it
done.
wouldn't hurt to have a motion in a second for that, just to be sure, because it's due next week, so.
Yeah, the only thing is, I don't think it's on the agenda. And so again, I don't wanna get wiggly on anything. I don't have any difficulty with it, but I'm pretty sure that we approved that at a previous meeting. But
I certainly did, because I think that it was the recommendation to go to the youth justice and youth to get the approval too, and they approved it, justice and youth did, and the full county board did, so. And you know what, as a matter of fact, I'll correct myself, because when we did the pre-application, we had to tell them that it was approved, and it was, there's even a date on that, so I guess we don't need to worry about that. So the grant will get submitted. The grantors are well aware of everything that's going on here. And you know, and I will just say, this isn't completely abnormal. This is not like it's the first time it's ever happened. Whenever you have a group or interdisciplinary thing like this, and you get into heated discussions that naturally, you're gonna have differences of opinions on within the team, and who gets into drug court, and you know, why not? You know, sometimes law enforcement says, we work so hard to get this person arrested, and now you're just gonna slap them on the wrist and put them in treatment court. And so we have those hard conversations and things come up, so, you know, this isn't something that the grantors have not seen before, and they're supportive of us continuing this money. We're in the middle of a non-competitive cycle right now, of a 5-year cycle, year 3, I think, so, you know, that is to our benefit, so we will make sure that gets in. As far as contacting Bill Drew, our new CJCC coordinator, you have his contact information, correct? So, and he also can, you know, be one person who can contact the stakeholders to try to get to the table with with those people as well, and get that going, so. Go ahead.
This is number 8, I think. Just one concrete suggestion that I think would aid all of us in this discussion, is finalizing the manual for the treatment court once and for all. Not that it's not gonna change, but, I mean, I've seen bits and pieces of it over the last 8 years or whatever it is. But then I know revisions have been suggested and some are still under discussion, whatever. But there's a lot of good stuff in there that explains to anybody who reads it what that court's about, what it's intended to do. Plus, all the procedural stuff is in there. And I think if, after a coordinator's hired, because they've gotta be a party to this, I think, finalize that and finalize the participant manual, and everybody in this room should know what's in there. Because again, and I've heard this discussed before, well, this is what our manual says, but you haven't been doing it that way. That's just not right. You can't do that. You wanna change it, fine, change it, you have the ability to change it. But that treatment team and this group here has to be party to that. And I think just putting them together, finalizing them as a treatment team and passing them out to everybody, said, here's what we're about, here's how the process works, here's how we go about assessing risk, etc. What are the goals and objectives of this treatment court, etc. Because I would bet not everybody in this room has seen a finalized copy of either one of those documents. And so it's sort of a concrete step you could start taking, and it might aid in this discussion, this mediated discussion or consensus, whatever you wanna call it, to get everybody on the same page and say, well, you know, we don't like this part here, this process. It shouldn't be this way. We should change it. Well, that can lead to a dialogue, because maybe, and I don't know, but maybe some of the reluctance of at least some of those people on the treatment team is as a result of something in the process that they don't like, you know, or they wish was different or whatever. But at least that gives you a starting point, and I really think that's gotta be done and shared with everybody, including youth justice. I can never get that community right. I still can't figure out why we're going there, but it doesn't sound like anybody else can either. But we gotta have someplace, gotta have a home. And if that's gonna be the home, then our dialogue with them has to be direct and constant. Because the bottom line is, whatever your county committee is, they have to be the advocate for you, for this CJCC, for the treatment court. If it doesn't come out of that committee, it ain't coming from nowhere else that I've seen. I mean, I've asked at a couple of meetings what the process is, and representatives of county can't explain it to me. Well, why are we going from this committee, who ships it over to this committee, who says, oh, okay, they approved it, so we're gonna ship it back to them, without taking any action except to ship it back. So their process is, in my opinion, muddled, and I pay taxes, so I can say that. But I really think those two documents could be very important. Integration of other services other than a single treatment contract with one provider. How's CCS gonna, I think that's the acronym, isn't it? How is that integrated into this? I think everybody needs to know, so those two pieces of paper, I think, could be valuable.
Yes, well, more than pieces of paper, they're books, but.
I understand.
Yeah, and we do have the foundation, and we've been doing this for a while, and, you know, and we have documents, we have plans, time test plans, working on evaluations, the plan now from the court, and it's moving forward, but again, we can't do it without a coordinator, you know, and I've heard, why is it, okay, we have this treatment court, you only have 2 people in there, but we know we have all of these drug addicted people in the community. Well, we only have 2 people because we don't have a coordinator to do the work. Our participants are struggling right now because the team is doing, you know, we're picking up all of those other tasks, so we need that. But, and I will just say, it's not just about the participants. We have 2 participants. Between the 2 of them, there are 8 children. Between 2 participants. So this branches out a lot larger than even what we're discussing here. And we do have people to fill this program to our maximum capacity. We have the cases, but we would not be responsible to be taking them right now when things are in the state that they're in. So that's what I mean, the whole purpose of this meeting, moving forward, you know, getting beyond the personality issues, the political issues, things like that. We've had a successful program, this can be a successful program, but it only can be if all the stakeholders are involved.
Can I speak?
Absolutely.
So, I think most of you know me, but I am on the Youth Justice Extension and Personnel, so I've heard a lot about this. And what you said means, it's kind of how I feel too. And the fact that we have 2 participants with 8 children, most of these participants have children, multiple children. And so my thought, but give you guys my thought, and this is, I can't speak for the rest of my committees or the rest of the county board, my thought, Ross as a county board member, as a committee member, is that we've been going on for 8 months now, and we've been at this 3 to 2 participant, and the need is so much greater than what we're reaching. So, some of you question why I wanna look at other programs. I, as a county board member, of the Youth Justice Committee, I cannot be satisfied or content with going on with 2 people. So if we have to look at other programs, maybe it's worth putting multiple nets out there to help people. Like I said, I don't know a lot of these, but I'm learning a lot from you guys, and that's great. But I'm gonna learn, I'm gonna maybe make mistakes, but I'm willing to look and find other options, other ways to increase that net. Because again, I think all of us who live in Ross County, know that there's so much more need, and it's not just the people who are the offenders. The kids are often the biggest victims, and through our church, we picked up kids, we try to help kids, and it's, they don't deserve that. And it's really sad, and I can't sit back for another 8 months or 6 months, whatever my term is, and say, I'm just gonna be content with two people. And I'm gonna be real honest with you guys, I don't mean to offend you guys, but coming to CJCC the last 6-8 months, we've talked more about fixing CJCC than we've talked about reaching and expanding that net. And so, right or wrong, I'm that the kind of person that I'm gonna try something, I wanna try something. And you're right. If I come up with a good program, if I can find a good program, we can come up with a good program, another program, I'll have a heck of a sell to get some finances from the county board. But you know what? If we can show them and say, hey, there's all these people out there that need help, there's all these kids that they need functioning families. I'm willing to go to the county board and I'm willing to champion that, I'm willing to lobby for that because I really believe in that. Like I said, I've seen people in my families help people, try to help people in this situation. So, that's my thought process, why I made that motion, because, and again, I don't know all that stuff, I'm learning it, and I'm willing to continue to keep learning, and I appreciate the input you guys have given. But if we have to do a dueling pass for a little while and find out one, or maybe they both work. But then the second part of that question, this is the one that makes this all uneasy. Me, I don't like it, like this. We talked about a closed sessions we had in personnel, is that there's a lot of people in a lot of the program, people where their supervisors pull them from the program because it's a toxic environment and it's an unhealthy workplace. Now, also as a county board member of the personnel committee, cannot in good conscience send people and tell people to go into a toxic work environment. And I don't like that, I mean, no one wants to talk about this, this is the icky sticky stuff, but we have a toxic work environment, we have people that come to personnel committee meetings in closed session because we do have to give them confidentiality and their peers. They don't wanna come and work with good people who really care, people who, I think, one of the things that, as I started learning about this program is that people really, really care. These aren't people that just punch a clock and at the end of the day punch out and just do the memory. These are people that put their heart and their soul in it. And so that even makes them more susceptible and it's not the most healthy work environment. And so I can't in good conscience ask the department head to send their people, their employees into that. I'm just being real honest with you guys. I know, like I said, this isn't stuff we always like to, this kind of stuff we'd rather not talk about. But if you want my buy-in from a county board supervisor, that's what I need to see. And like I said, I believe that these people need help. There's a lot of people, like I said, are not, even when this program was functioning, we had what, 16 people as the peak? That's not even enough. Because there's so much more need, there's such a problem in our community. And I'm willing to go, and if you follow my politics, Judge Barnett probably knows, and Jeremy knows, I'm pretty cheap. I don't like to spend money. But something like this where we can help people, we can make a difference in people's lives, make a difference in our kids' lives. I'm willing to go up and champion that. But there's things that need to be addressed in drug court before I can champion that. I mean, how could I go to the county board and say, hey, we need to support this? When we have people coming out on a regular basis to personnel committee meetings in tears and ready to quit, and probably some people may have quit. And how can I champion and say, hey, our program's helping 2 people? Anybody know? I mean, questions or comments on that? That's where my thought process. Maybe if it's wrong, let me know. But
Well, first off, I wanna thank you for your participation over the last 6, 7 months, something like that. We do have a couple of people on CJCC who represent the county board, Dave and you do, and I think that's very, very good. Until some of these issues are taken care of, it's a little bit difficult to justify 2 people, I get that. But you can't manage 2 people in a treatment court without a coordinator, trust me. I mean, 2 people with 8 kids, and you take a look at where their tentacles go into this community, it's a lot bigger than 8 kids and 2 parents. It's bigger than that, and so to try and function without that is just not, it's not feasible. It just isn't, I can tell you that, because everybody who sits on that treatment team has a full-time job. They can't be out there making sure that people are getting to their counseling sessions, having their UAs, making sure that they're compliant with their individual treatment plan, etc. Nobody's got the time for that, and right now we got 2 people burnt out because they have full-time jobs and they're trying to piecemeal this thing together. It's just, it's not gonna work that way. The other thing I would say to you, John, other than thank you for your interest and your motivation, because I've seen it and I've heard it, okay? But one thing I would encourage you to do as a county board member is to utilize this group. You got an idea for some plan B and some other additional alternative in the criminal justice system, please use this group. Here's where the expertise and the experience are in these areas. We don't have it yet, but we have a data committee, for example. You wanna
But we got it.
get a,
We
pardon?
got the data committee. We're up and running. Yeah, Judge, come on. We're up and running.
Okay, well, but this is supposed to be the source. This is supposed to be a source for that data to tell you where the priorities should be, okay? And once you figure out what your priorities are, then you can match the programming to those individuals. But if you're talking about people who need intensive treatment, for the most part, they need to be in this treatment court. Because all your other options are less inclined to focus on the treatment aspects of this. I'm just telling you, they are. They're procedural, but they're designed to screen out and put them on an alternative track, those that are low risk and low medium risk, which is a lot of your offenders, people who are arrested. And those are the ones where you can have these less intrusive, less treatment oriented folks and move them out of the system and ensure that fewer of them are gonna come back. Because that's the key. That's the key, is to keep them in the community, functioning, paying their bills, taking care of their kids, whatever it is. And a lot of the people in the criminal justice system in this county and every county, don't need the level of treatment that should be available through the treatment court. So I would just ask you to use this group as a sounding board for your ideas, and now we've got the data. Okay, Jeremy will make sure of that, and that's fine, we've needed it, because if you look at our charter, it says we're a data-driven council. So you gotta have the data so you know what are the numbers, and that's another way we can figure out how many people should be in the treatment court. How many of these offenders do have these high needs, particularly around treatment? And we should be able to tell you, yeah, we should have slots for 20 people, or whatever, at a time. And that's gonna be limited by the resources of the county, I understand that. You're never gonna get up to the amount you probably ideally would have. So, please, use this group, and hopefully our committees are gonna all start functioning now, and well, it takes time.
Well, thank you for that. Well, that's the drug court, I agree that without drug court, it makes it really, really hard. From the same token, back in my earlier statement, I don't wanna hire somebody and then put them on a healthy work environment. So, I mean, until that's cleared, I can't, again, it's part of my job is to watch out for the employees of the county as much as people who need treatment. So I'm between a rock and a hard place, if you understand what I'm saying. And sorry for not reaching out to you guys more for different, I'm learning about this and I'm learning a lot, let's just say that. But I don't wanna, I'm not gonna hopefully not to sacrifice one or the other. I'm not gonna send employees back into a unhealthy work environment. And if it means finding a different route to help other people, again, if I help 2 people, like Matt's what we've been doing the last 6 months, if I can help 4 people, I double it. And again, I think we all have that same goal, we know that we need to broaden our nets.
But there's another way to look at it too, and that is 2 people doesn't sound like much. But if you take a look at the national statistics as to what those people who become dependent upon society to take care of them and their 8 kids, you're potentially saving millions of dollars with 2 people. With 2 people. We did the projections one time on one pregnant mother who was a methamphetamine addict and had been addicted to 12 other chemicals over her lifespan. She lost 5 kids and she went number 6, but as a result of participating in our treatment court, she ended up getting 3 of her kids back. She's a taxpayer, and we estimated that intervention with one person saved over $1.5 million because that baby was not born as an addict. And so all the medical costs, the social costs, all the costs that Jeremy sees, that law enforcement sees, I mean, so that's another way to look at it. I've always said, you know, you can save 1 or 2 people and get them on the right track, you've really done yourself a service. If those same people go into prison, guess what happens? You and everybody in this room is gonna be kicking in about $45,000 a year for no treatment. And now, with the lockdowns in 3 prisons since last spring, they're not getting anything. They're not even getting exercise, for crying out loud. So we'll spend $45,000 a year or more to lock them up for a year in the state prison system. And here, are we willing to spend $1,000 or whatever to keep them from being in that bed in Dodge or whatever? So I would just ask you to keep that perspective.
I don't disagree at all with this.
Okay, well, and I didn't think you did, but I just, we sometimes lose sight of that, I think. Say, well, geez, we should be serving more. Sure, we should. But if you can make a significant impact for 1 or 2 or 3, that's great.
Perfect, did you have something?
I had 2 quick thoughts. One is, you were talking about fear around the work environment, and sometimes bringing the extra person in might help the work environment, right? That could be partly the problem, is there's not someone there to take on the tasks that are needed, and then that vacuum is part of what's creating the negative problem. So addressing that, hiring that, might be an important step in changing things. And then I think this is a different way of saying something similar to what Judge Stewart was saying too. Helping 2 people or helping 4 people is not just a quantitative thing about the number of people that you help, but there's a qualitative level to the amount that you help each individual person, right? If someone is otherwise a $45,000 prison price tag, along with $100,000 for each of their kids that need to be farmed out, that intervention, even though it's only helping 1 person, is worth substantially more than helping 4 people who are basically otherwise doing fine, but you're giving them a little bit of a boost, right? So the pure quantitative number of I've helped this many people isn't necessarily as important as the qualitative reflection of how much we're helping any individual 1 person to do a bigger thing. And I think that's ultimately what recovery courts are really designed to do, is to target those super needy, super big system drains and really take those and turn those into those positive features. So I think it's important to not think of it purely in terms of the number of people helped, but the amount that those individual people are getting helped as well.
I agree with that too. As far as the drug court coordinator, our issues predate the drug court coordinator vacancy, and that's actually why we have a vacancy. So again, it's a hard
So
balance.
I just wanna say, Jonathan, and I'm so appreciative that you're here, because I think it shows that, you know, how committed you are to at least learning about this. It's pretty complicated, but, and we have, you know, there are things that have been put in place that we're working towards that we agreed and we came to committee meetings for, and that have started to restructure the way the treatment court is. But yet we haven't been able to hire a coordinator, even though we've started to implement those changes. So, I mean, you know, to keep saying, I mean, I get what you're saying, that you can't, you know, put an employee into an unhealthy environment, but when you're hearing the things, because what Kirby just said is exactly true, when people are getting stressed out to the point where they're having arguments because everyone is pulling their hair out and they're doing the functions of other people, and we have memorandums of understanding that they shouldn't be. They're working full-time on their own, and it's just to a really heightened stress level. But you know, what we have changed things, that coordinator position, Jeremy's going to be overseeing the training of the coordinator and the employment supervision of that. Everyone has said that, and myself included, completely open to changes. Without having a coordinator, these things that we've come up with and identified that we need to work on from that evaluation that was done a year ago now, we can't do, because we don't have a coordinator to do it. We don't have a coordinator to even simply facilitate the meetings. And so we have done some things, so we need to just be able to move forward. We need to get past this and acknowledge that we have already started on that, steps to ensure that issue. And so, so first and foremost, priority is getting the coordinator in place, and I really think that's gonna take a lot of stress off. It's not going to replace that. Everyone needs to get to the table and understand the role of their own role on the treatment team, and we can work on that. But again, that's a huge difference right now.
From an action standpoint, is the key, is that, I keep hearing time is of the essence and those kinds of things. If hypothetically, based on the agenda that came out, if you are meeting with Justice Youth Extension on Monday, if that's what that is, then, you know, there's a county board meeting on Tuesday. Either way, the county board is going to have to approve the job description, work that was done.
Where we can even post.
Before you can post that thing. So we can talk about, this is all great stuff. This is all exactly what has to happen. We have to get all the people back to the table. But short of the county board saying, we can forge ahead, the rest is fluffish.
Well, the county board has said we can forge ahead. It's just, they won't let us post until the new job description, because that was one of the goals too. Making sure that we looked at that job description, which we all sat around the table with stakeholders and updated that job description. We just did that last month. And so that's the only piece right now holding back on that, and that's what we need the approval for. So maybe we could get on for Tuesday.
Is that in front of personnel, or are you the one, is your committee the one that has to approve the job description?
They already have.
Okay, so is you.
Just the full county board.
Full county board.
It's been approved.
Justice and Youth and Personnel already approved it. And this
Judge, I
committee.
just wanted to, this is Melissa, sorry, I just wanted to echo what you said, cause I agree with you 100% in the sense that, like, I think the first action plan has to be to get that, coordinator position hired, because at least from the Department of Corrections standpoint, we are not functioning without a coordinator first and foremost, so I think that has to be step number one. And then step number two, I think we need to talk to the stakeholders that did decide to take on that temporary suspension and find out what they need, or what they need in order to be back at the table, like what are they looking for? And I know in the letter that I provided, I laid it out there on what the Department of Corrections would need to see happen in order for us to come back to the table. So I think that needs to be the second action step. That's just my suggestion. But first and foremost, I don't even think there's even a need for a discussion until we can get that coordinator back, because without it, we are not a functioning.
So you're kind of what I'm saying, is echoing, is I'm not gonna try to speak for anybody that hold their employees, but I think if you do the math what I'm saying is that they want a healthy environment for their employees. And until they have that, so you ask them what they need, I don't think it's a question anymore, this is their statement to hand, until my employees have a healthy work environment, they will not be back in there. And as a county board member, I respect somebody taking that stand, because they should take the stand to fight for their employees, and that's my job to fight for their employees.
Well, my question is,
I agree,
what,
but
what,
do we need?
how do you define an unhealthy work environment? What's going on? What's going on that needs to be addressed?
From a human services standpoint, yesterday morning, I suggested to the judge that my 2 employees that go to that committee meeting, that judge sit down with them, and if they have things that they want to voice their opinion, cause I know they may, that's the only way you can get at that, is to specifically address with a question.
So I can't answer your question, but that would be a conversation like that would be good. I can't answer your question because it's in closed session and there's confidentiality. And then, like you said, I ran on the board of the first committee I picked when they, not picked, but you could request your committees. The first committee I requested was youth justice because drug court meant that much. I've seen how it's changed people's lives and made a difference. I'm not somebody that's here as a hater of the drug court, I'm not somebody here that wants to see it go away or wants to see it not supported. I'm here somebody that wants to see it supported, but at the same token, I hear what the people are saying, I hear what the people in tears have told us, and I can't put them in a bad environment either. And so I wanna see it succeed, and if it succeeds and we do another part and that succeeds, great, then we got more coverage. But I'm also not content to let us flounder, like you said, at least let's look at other options to help, and maybe you get 2 good options, maybe you have 1 good option. I just wanted to see solutions.
Amen.
So what, you
Can
know,
I speak? Oh.
sure, go ahead, Melissa.
I was just gonna say, because I was gonna comment on this before, but I think a mediator would be good. So first and foremost, maybe getting a mediator in there, somebody that's a third party and, outside of us. And I think I heard some suggestions, and I would vote for Judge Smeltzer as well, being that I come from Dutch County, like Judge Stewart does as well. And then secondly, the other thing I wanna say is, and I agree that we need to expand the programs that we have, and having drug court in West County in and of itself is certainly not enough. But my concern is we're serving the highest risk client, and, I think that's more important than any other program. But I think, you know, we could put out other nets, or we could have other programs developed, but the problems are gonna still exist. There's still gonna be personnel issues, and how do you resolve them? Because I think at this point, if we can't even function in one area, how are we going to function as a team in multiple areas? So I don't think trying to expand or go in a different directions with the same stakeholders is gonna solve anything until we can actually resolve the problem first and foremost.
And it's gonna take time to hire a coordinator, and while that is being done, this, mediator or getting the stakeholders at the table can be worked at, and we can hire a coordinator. And that, I mean, there are a lot of duties that a coordinator can do without having to be in the team environment until we get through that mediation with the team too, and that's up to the, department heads on that. So, I mean, you know, realistically, if they approve the job description on Tuesday for the coordinator, it's gonna be posted for a minimum of 2 weeks, another week to schedule the interviews. And, you know, then they give a 2-week notice. We're already, you know, a month and a half into this process. A lot can be done with stakeholders around the table with the mediator during that time. So we can do things in conjunction, and whoever comes in for the mediation or consensus building or whatever that may be, can come back once the coordinator is in, and that's kind of, you know, like what All Rise had said when they would, you know, step up with their trainings too. So, I mean, I think these are all great places to start. We need to dig in, and that was kind of the thought after the October 2nd, county board meeting is, you know, we got the approval from the county board, now the real work begins. But the real work can't begin until we have a coordinator, and, we're just gonna be spinning our wheels. But we can all meet as stakeholders and potential team members to get all that worked out while we're waiting to hire that coordinator. At least we're in the process of doing it.
Well, thank you guys, and I really do appreciate your character on it, cause sometimes on the county board you have to make hard decisions, and seem like you say no a lot, but it has been a inspiring to meet a lot of people that really care and really, to be honest with you, believe in people that don't believe in themselves on it. So I do appreciate that too. And like I said, I'm here to try to champion something that makes our county better, helps people. Definitely one of
Thank
those.
you for your comments and coming and being straightforward. I guess this is how we make progress, so appreciate it. Anybody else? Ross, from the court's perspective, the district court perspective, do you have anything that you want to say?
No, just, first of all, can you hear me, Judge?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, thanks everyone for letting me, join as an observer today and just kind of get better educated, again, looking at the, kind of the proposal that we had at that October 2nd meeting, as we touched on a lot of that, so, and thanks to Mark for putting that together and making sure that folks are aware. One thing just to clarify, I guess, 'cause I'm consistent with most that are in the room, that the hiring of the treatment coordinator is gonna, be step one to help organize and really get a refresh view of perspective of what we can do with it. One thing I'm not sure everyone knows is that in that report or in that plan that we prepared and presented was we want to acknowledge that this position would be officially under the authority of the county and DHHS. I know that as a supervisor, moving forward, I know, that may have been the case before, but there was some gray area and confusion, most people are aware of what happened. So we really want to do anything we can to support moving forward, that we, any of those concerns and personnel issues and things, that there is a better avenue, if there is something that pops up and, someone knows who they can go to talk to and, not feel like they carry weight around and not have any recourse to discuss things. So, we acknowledge that there's things that we can all do better, and that was kind of step one, that we want to make sure, whatever we can do to support that moving forward, we certainly are willing to do. And so, if those are some of the things that are still lingering, just to make sure that everyone's aware, that's something that we feel like we certainly are supporting to address and have a fresh start. And so, I guess the next step is trying to see where we're at with the ability to post that position. And I'm not sure if the gentleman, from the board is still in the room or not, I think they'll be left, but.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, yeah, I kind of tell, were you sitting on my right that night?
Yes,
Kind of, tell the.
they're on the end.
Yeah, so, yeah, I just want, next steps, trying to move forward, because I've had off and on, emails with Ashley, getting the approval for the job description is kind of where it's hovering right now, the last I heard anyway, because again, just one of the decisions I think I can mention from that night was that I would be involved with the hiring, the interview process and things like that, so I'm still willing to do that. And so, that's one of the number of things that the board's willing to do to help move forward.
Thank you, Ross.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, good start, and, so I will, keep working on the grant with, Drew, do you wanna look into trying to coordinate stakeholder meeting and, contacting maybe these names that were given today to help facilitate that?
I will volunteer to talk to Judge Smeltzer. I was just joking when they said I could make him do it. So, but I can coax him and cajole him.
Okay,
Cause I think cause he spoke to me at length about his opportunity to, do the drug court when he was assigned up here, and, he was very enthusiastic. So, I think he would do it. I'll give him free report,
okay, that helps. All right, if nothing else, I guess it is getting close to, Rich Gogger, who has been filling in as basically the interim coordinator, did have something, he couldn't be here, so I wanna make sure that his statements get read quick.
Open letter to CJCC, from Rich Gogger. I regret I am unable to attend this meeting. However, I would like to address some concerns that have plagued Recovery Court and this committee these past several months. These concerns seem to have culminated in several letters written by department heads presented to the Justice, Youth, and Extension Committee. If one were to take these letters on face value with no additional input, you would have to believe that Russ County Recovery Court was a totally dysfunctional unit. This clearly is not the case. It is extremely important we focus on the mission of Recovery Court as stated in the team binder, and that only refers to the sober recovery of the participants past, present, and future. None of us should explore any agenda other than the welfare of those people who are suffering from substance abuse. Many times the studies that were completed at the request of drug court has been used to reference to point out the failure of recovery court. This should be used to point out the success and the progress. At the time of the study, most of us on the team were new to the position. The supervision of the coordinator is now under Mr. Jacobs. Training of the team has progressed and more is planned. When we get a coordinator in place, we plan on reducing the admission time for applicants. The team continues to evolve, but evolution takes some time. Have there been things that we could do better? Of course there is. We can all say that in everything we do, we learn, progress, and improve. Has anyone noticed that many of these issues have only happened during a time when there was no full-time coordinator? Do those people who think make that happen not see the failure to hire a full-time coordinator is a major factor in some of the challenges faced by the team? The insight, expertise, and knowledge provided by the recovery court team and the constant contact with the participants provides a level of involvement that cannot be duplicated. It is critical that the recovery court continue with the leadership provided by a full-time coordinator. Therefore, I ask the committee to communicate to the county board not to seek alternatives to treatment court, but to work with us to continue to improve. To do that, we must hire a coordinator as quickly as possible. The board must know that recovery court, in coordination with treatment providers, is the best program to help those suffering from substance abuse.
Thank you for that. Okay, I think we have our groundwork in place, so unless anybody has anything else, we don't need to set the next meeting date, that's already set, I think, isn't it?
No.
December, because it falls on Thanksgiving, but.
Right, so from the meeting previous, it was November 6th, but that was for the training. And then.
Normally, this group would meet the fourth Thursday, that's Thanksgiving Day.
Yep.
So right now, our next meeting date is,
28th. December.
the 28th we set it for, yes, 28th at 7:30 a.m. Okay, and if we have to set up another one, we can always do that too, but next step is the stakeholders, so. Thank you everyone for coming, thank you for all of your comments, I think it's something to work towards. And so I will adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.